Hi, my name is Oscar Becher. I'm Archivist and Vault Manager for Vinegar Syndrome, where I oversee all of these films in our enormous archive, where we keep things for future generations and restore them to home media. Whenever we're not able to find a complete element with every single one of the bits from the original first release, sometimes we have to pull from a strange and unique format called video. This has been a big problem over the course of the last 10 years, where sometimes there have been big subtractions in quality from the actual film elements to those actual elements pulled from video. Not everything was edited on film. Not everything's master is on film. So, let's talk a little bit about Degausser, where we will be releasing shot on video shit. So, how does the process of film differ to the process of video? Instead of an actual emulsion, creating the actual image itself, which is photochemically imposed on an actual base, what we have is ferric oxide, or metal oxide dust, which is overlaid over a backing. Think of it in very simple terms as tape. Tape has an actual support or base. This, let's pretend it's made of PET, which is what the vast majority of tapes are made of. And on top of this synthetic plastic is that magnetic oxide layer. This magnetic oxide layer, contained within pigments in the actual binder itself, allow this actual image to be captured using ones and zeros. This means that maybe something is, the actual oxide dust is contained this way. Once it's a zero, it's this way. These zeros and ones shift slightly in the mag oxide layer, so they should stay there for a long period of time. In order to do that, you need to read it. This is done with an actual VTR deck, and this VTR deck knows exactly how to not pass light, but electromagnetic signals, so that the actual zeros and ones can be read and played back on a CRT monitor. On the backing of it is a back coat, and this back coat allows it to transfer quickly through the actual VCR or VTR that contains it. How would you actually edit on tape? Once actually editing in video, you cannot alter an earlier decision that you made earlier in the film. You cannot go back in that actual same film without rewriting the entire tape altogether. So, unlike film, it's a bit more time consuming for the editor, and there's a unique skill set that's needed to actually do it. But there's something interesting in the actual process itself, especially in the late 80s, when this was all fairly new. First, you get a camera. Once you actually have, let's pretend this is a VHS-C, the actual original in-camera shots, you dub that to another element. And that other element becomes the master material. It's the only place where every single cut element exists. Now, you go back to your editing studio and you degauss the original camera tape. That means that material, that original material which looked the best and better than any other tape will ever look, is now gone. It's copied onto a separate element, and that also captures within it the inherent flaws of the transfer system in which it was transferred and copied over. You get something like these. These are the two last remaining masters for redneck zombies. Degausser will be focused on actually releasing these shot on video titles. These films oftentimes were made on very, very, very low budget, almost in contempt of budgets. Betacam SP, a very common mastering format in the 1980s and 90s. Superior performance is what the SP stands for. You may be asking me, Oscar, why are you talking about tapes when we don't use tape anymore? We only use digital technologies. Well, there are many different formats which remain to this day due to their constant improvements behind the scenes. For instance, this is the track for New York Ninja, which is on half-inch tape. The great people at Factory Underground in Norwalk, Connecticut, helped us out with actually creating a master format for all those great, all that great vocal work and music work and everything like that. because obviously we still have the film materials, that's preserved, but in order to truly keep materials alive, it's good to have something analog. It's very cool and was made just 2 years ago. Television was the biggest actual proponent for actually creating videotape. We needed a very easy to delete and recopy format for actually copying off live broadcasts. Before, on film, they would capture using kinescopes. These were 16mm film where you could capture live transmissions of actual filmed TV. But in the mid-1950s, there came a new format developed by the lovely folks at Ampex. This format is called quad. Quad is enormous, beautiful, and around 2 inches. And it's very thin if you break it down. So there you can see the actual base. There you can see the actual mag oxide layer. Many would argue that the story of videotape begins in 1956 with this quad tape. I would argue differently. Picture yourself in Brunswick, Germany, 1777. A little boy was born. His name was Carl Friedrich Gauss.
Hallo, Karl Friedrich.
He wanted nothing more than to learn about the magnetic fields of the world. The electromagnetic waves were the reality in his mind.
Der Magnet.
This brilliant mathematician began doing the first survey of magnetic fields of the entire Earth. Could such a thing be possible? No one knew. In order to do so, he created the magnetometer in the 1830s, which measures the strength or direction of a magnetic force. This was less than a decade after the first photochemically created image taken by Joseph Nicephore Nietzsche. These magnetometers could be used to see whether or not a substance was magnetized. And 2, were also capable of actually calibrating magnetizable materials. The magnetic flux intensity of these objects to this day are measured in the unit of the Gauss. Fast forward to World War II when a giant steel-hulled ship could be discovered, sensed, and blown up due to them acting like enormous traceable magnets. This magnetic field could be cancelled through the use of degaussing. And this was done through installing electrical cables in the hull of a ship and then passing a current through these cables. A tape degausser is an electrically charged coil that upon winding through the actual tape material, it could be set back to square one so that a tape could be reused. Brilliant idea. With this added utility, the media business would never be the same. And that, my friends, is the story of Degausser. 1-inch tape is incredibly interesting because it's, believe it or not, half the size of 2-inch tape. This product uses helical scan technology. Instead of a film, which goes up to down, 1, 2, 3, 4, the actual tape material here on 1-inch goes vertically. So think of a right angle going straight down the actual tape itself. Instead of using that angle, you could use a vertical angle. That's longer because it's a longer, like think of a triangle. This meant you could store a tiny bit more information. Next on our list of tape formats, we have U. Not you, Matic tape. Beautiful 1970, when multiple companies came together to create a very unique format, very interesting, and widely used for mastering in all types of media. This actual format is also very interesting because it goes a slightly different rotation than VHS. Essentially, it looks like a chunky VHS. We have some of the 8s. There's high 8, video 8, and digital 8. And there's some other formats such as DAT. DAT is all DAT. And DAT is the truth. And DAT is also a very good sound mastering format. So if you find something from the 1990s, there's a good chance that the best possible sound element will be found on DAT tape, which is a digitally encoded tape instead of an analog tape. As one can tell, there are a great many video formats. More than Oscar knows, some would say. But in the mid-1970s, there came an event so incredibly earth-shattering in the media world that even speaking whispers of it in a dark and lonely alley will cause heartbreak to any of the young lovers of home media. 1975, Sony came out with this, Betamax. However, JVC had different things in mind and came out with this, VHS. This begins what will one day become known as the Format Wars. Introducing your reigning champion, Betamax, coming in at 50.9 by 9.6 by 2.5 centimeters. It is better picture quality, it's smaller, more portable and cute. And on the other end, VHS, aka very hard slaughter. It's cheaper to make, it's nasty, and it comes in at 18.7 by 10.2 by 2.5 centimeters. I'm not even gonna try the VHS. Could record longer durations, but the quality's not so good, and the distribution company relations come with it. No heartbeat. Betamax has lost the Format Wars and VHS is the winner. So now let's talk about how to actually care for your VHS properly so it's an archivally sound. Follow me, won't you? Oh, you're already there, okay. So VHS is a very compact consumer grade format, which is one of the reasons why it was successful. How do you fit the amount of material that's contained on this onto this little guy? This is done by breaking the image into smaller, more compressible and packageable forms, such as lines. This is compression at its finest. Here's an example of some of the worst mold/damage/sticky shed syndrome that I've ever seen. So, as we can see here, it's absolutely disgusting. There's really not much to be said other than this is a hazard to everybody who looks at it. What sticky shed syndrome is due to the actual binder being a very complicated mix of chemicals. One of the most important is polyurethane, is a material which is very hygroscopic. Hygroscopic means that it soaks in moisture from the environment around it due to it not having enough moisture within the actual material itself. And what this would actually entail was that you'd actually have to bake it. What you'd do is you'd set a convection oven to around 60 degrees, 55, 60 degrees, a very stable temperature. Depending on the actual format, it's different times. For this, it would be a little bit bigger. But you'd leave it for different times for the actual layers to separate. If you had something like this, it may take a few days at the exact same temperature over a longer period of time. How do you actually deal with a piece of tape that's exhibiting mold? What I do is I use alcohol. It takes off organic material and dissipates very quickly. Here's something that you can expect to see if you don't take care of your VHS correctly. There's dropout, ghosting, flagging, picture distortion, flutter, mistracking, noise, skew, snow. So first, always open with the top up, very cautious, very careful. Here we have the actual supply, and here we have the Takeup. One of the actual things that you can see about this tape is if you look right here, you can see some mold growth. This is why you want to keep your actual tapes in a very dry and very stable environment. To actually move it, we just press this lever down and we can twist it a little bit. The actual image itself on VHS is contained on the outside here. Basically, it uses an actual M formation. So with multiple points of tension, this, my right hand finger, will be actually where the drum will be. The ideal is to have a very even wind throughout the entire reel. This eliminates the idea of having different environmental conditions affecting different parts of the reels in different ways, which could cause warpage over a long period of time. Let's say you don't like redneck zombies and you pause it in the middle of the film never to watch it again. So essentially when you're actually starting off watching a movie, it's going to be here. Don't pause your movie in the center of it, as I'm about to do here. What this does is causes there to be tension placed on two parts of the actual tape itself, like this. It'll pinch it. It'll pinch the actual tape itself, and this will cause the image to change slightly. It will never take its shape again until you actually press play. So ideally what you'd want is to watch it fully through the first time, that you return it to a state of being that it wants to actually be in. All materials have a natural state that they want to be in, and there's a tiny bit of leader at the actual take-up. I don't care if you don't like the fucking movie, just fucking watch it once without pausing it. So that is another reason why you should rewind after you're done with it. It's not just about being kind to the next person, which no one ever does anyway. It's about making sure that the materials are safe. Thank you for joining us on this tour of magnetic tape. I never learned how to conclude a video properly, so instead of doing that, I will throw something at the camera and run out of frame really quickly. Goodbye. Oh, fuck! Are you okay?